The lights are dim inside Elliot's loft, where we start to do our things now on Sunday night. So for the most part, we we turn down the lights just a little bit. We don't need them too bright and kind of keep the mood kind of set that way for the most part. Welcome to when black men talk. It's interesting, man. I noticed lately I think I forgot that I kind of was in contact with the app Audible and to get the show placed up there. And for some reason, it got placed up there after I guess my contact with those folks, and people been listening up there, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it big time. I appreciate on any platform that we're on, and folks are giving us an air. And it's interesting to where we're starting to spread into many different foreign countries and other cities in the United States, man. And it always brings a big smile to my face when new places and see people are basically paying attention to the conversation. And that's what we do here. We just get together and have, we can say a simple conversation, but most of the time it's a deep conversation. Myself, Mark Elliott, Mr. DeReese, and Mr. Charles, and I'm going to bring them in. Mr. Charles, how you feeling, man?
Not too bad, brother. Not too bad. New year, spring is almost here, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here, man. I love that word spring, man. Something about, especially this year, it has a special feeling to it. Mr. DeReese, how you feeling, boss?
I ain't feeling like spring is here. That's for damn sure. In Chicago, and spring ain't nowhere around. I can't see it. I can't think about it. It's cold. It's cold. It's cold. Don't come to Chicago. Wait until June to come to Chicago.
Damn, damn, that's summer. That's summer, basically, man. That is summer. Gentlemen, sometimes things happen and we bring it to the forefront of conversation. I usually try not, for the most part, to bring in that social stuff that's kind of highlighted, but sometimes things happen and a conversation can come out of it. And recently, there was a cat that we watched play football, and he's worked for doing some things for the NFL, and it seemed like he got caught up with basically an affair outside of his marriage. And the husband of the woman that allegedly that he's with, they're saying he's come on and done some things, and he approached him, and Steve apologized to him. And things happen in life, man. I mean, affairs are nothing new. But the thing I wanted to kind of zero in on, because I look at some of the response to people that are saying basically, why is the husband talking to Steve and not talking to her? And for me, I find that to be a little strange. So I'm gonna come to you first with Maurice, because to me, when a man or a woman basically does something with someone's spouse, you don't have a right to choose how they're going to respond and what they're going to do when they find out. It's not like there's no certain script I think the person should follow. So it kind of, to me, when I see people going, why he's talking to Steve, and I think in a way, some of that is because we know Steve and we like him. But in reality, again, when that happens, who are we to judge to say this person's going about the wrong way? Your reaction to it?
I don't look at it as a right or wrong way to go about it, but I would think that the person you made the vows with, and you sat down before the Creator to make the vows with, that would be the first person you address it with. Whether he did that or not, I'm not sure, because you know you had an agreement. There's a contract there, and for whatever reason, that person didn't honor that contract. And I think we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, that I think he's doing it, and you mentioned this. He's doing it to, if I got to be hurt, you're going to be hurt with, your wife and your situation too. So I'm just not going to be sitting in this alone. And I always felt that, when you mess with somebody else's, their significant other or their husband or wife, you are potentially going to hurt like three or four hearts if it goes bad. And it usually goes bad. And it reminds me of what grandma used to always say, is that, at the beginning it's sweet as honey, but the ending is bitter as gall. And it came out of the Bible. It's like, you can start off as all sweet, everything you think you want, you're getting. But I think he needs to address, if he hasn't addressed it with his wife, he should address it first. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, unless you're going to go out with a gun and start shooting people. But it's a tough situation where I don't envy him at all. I don't, I did my best years ago, and when I start really kind of figuring out that when I was in situations like that, it's like, you know what are you doing? Stop what you're doing. You're going to be breaking uh, a lot of people's hearts as well as your own, because you may get attached to this person. You may fall in love with this person. You never know, but it's a weird situation, man. It's a bad situation. I know it goes on all the time, but we just need to really kind of think about it, because it's not right. It's just not right. That person belongs to somebody else. They made their vows with somebody else, and I think he has some fault in it, and she does. But the first person, again, I would want to check is the wife.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange dynamic, and you touched on a lot of good things there. People will be hurt, and then that when you, like you said, when you're starting out, you're not thinking that deep. You really are. And I don't know, Mr. Charles. There's something to be said for, and it happens every day, and we all probably been part of it. So it's not that I'm singling us out like we're better than that, but there's something to be said when a man goes after a woman and knows she's married. It's something to be said. And here again, for me, when that person that's married catches up with it, his response to it is like, ooh, you have to kind of deal with it in a sense. So I want to get your reaction on it because, like I said earlier, people are kind of looking, and like Dee Marie said, that, he should be kind of directing that more towards her. But I think in a lot of situations, if I, give this some thought, you always remember like when women would catch their husbands cheating, they were more mad at the other woman than mad at
Yeah.
him. Yeah. So it's kind of has some of that too, but I'm going to assume he hasn't confronted her. But I think when I look at this, Mr. Charles, it seemed like this cat is hurt a little bit more because I almost wonder if Steve and him had some type of friendship or something going on. But your response to it, sir?
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that. Maybe he is feeling some kind of way if he and Steve had some type of relationship or bond, friendship. But on the other hand, though, as you mentioned, it doesn't seem like it's right for a man to go after another man's woman or wife. But the other part that I look at that I think we got to take in consideration is a wife sometimes grows so tired of a marriage that she falls right into whatever a trap may be, and the trap may be not so much that the guy came after her, but she just might have met him on a humble. She knew him before. They have good conversation, and she feels like she's getting something from him that her husband's not providing. So I think sometimes she might just be as equally guilty or not more, because I guess it's kind of one of them things that if you're unhappy, does it really matter who it is?
Well,
And that's what I'm looking at. I mean, so I get it. You as men, you say no. Like I'm the same way. If I know a woman's married or anything like that, I don't have nothing to do with her. I don't care how fine she is or whatever she's going through. I have no use for her for that, because I think about how I would feel. But on the flip side, like I said, I think sometimes with women, if they are feel like they're so despondent and they're out of touch with where they're at and don't like what's going on, particularly with people that they knew before, right? And sometimes they try to relive their past because it was fun because they were younger, and they go back to stuff like that too. So you never know, man. But I think it's no, it's not always on the. I mean, they're just as guilty, but it's not always on the man chasing a woman. It could be a woman just really desperate and looking for something, and he happened to be there. Now, he could have said no, but damn, she didn't close her legs either. So I think that's something to think about.
No, we're going to do some thinking about that, man. You open up another door with this conversation, boss, because in reality, let's look at it from that angle. We as men, we will fall to temptation. There's sometimes we yield, sometimes we stand strong and we walk away from it. But there's sometimes that most of us, in reality, are given to temptation, and we live in a sinful world. But and that you bring up an interesting point, Mr. Jones, because a lot of times, I look at when an affair happens. I even look at this situation here. They both are married. but someone initiated it. I don't know if it was, in this case, it was Steve or it was her. But there are times, like Mr. Charles says, where a woman basically can be in that situation, and it can be something she's desiring, and will basically bring forth, initiate where something like this can happen. And a lot of times when it does happen, just my personal opinion, she's not looked upon, even in this situation, as being the person that, started it, carried on, or whatever. And like you said, Ms. DeMaurice, it seemed like, he's going after her. Steve is not coming after her. For some reason, that happens a lot for the most part. But we walk in a world as men where it's tempting. And Mr. Charles, as you stated, they could be in a situation where they're not unhappy about something or something the case may be, and before you know it, they're making themselves in so many ways, Mr. Maurice, available to you. And that's something that we all have basically dealt with. And, sometimes you fall on the sword, sometimes you push the sword out of the way. But I wanted to get your reaction to it, Maurice, because in reality, I mean, that is a big part of it because they take the vow at a certain time based on their feelings, their emotions. They act like that vow is not existent. As men, how do we perceive and how do we go about
I always had a problem with that where it's like, okay, I'm not happy. Have you talked about it with your partner? Because that's the person you're supposed to be talking about. Hey, I need this, I need that. I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that. And you got to think what happened in the process of being married and taking those vows and everything, where you feel like you're not being listened to, or you don't feel like you can be heard, or you don't want to talk to somebody else, where you talk to somebody else outside of the situation, where that situation can kind of grow into what it is today. The result is, you got some broken marriages, you got some broken hearts, that are involved in it now. So to me, as a man, um, yeah, that would be very hurtful. That my spouse stepped outside of our union, and I it's to me it's just a foul situation, bro. And like for years, and I've been guilty of messing with somebody else's, um, you know, woman or their wife. But I got to a point in my life where it's like, wow, this is really foul. This is really foul. And I don't want to be around family members. I don't want to be around friends and them thinking that, oh, he's gonna make a play for my woman, or she likes him, and so we find ourselves in a situation where we're just gonna lay down with each other and like damn everything else. I just gotta have you. It's just a foul situation, man. And you can tell I'm really uncomfortable talking about it, man, because I've been in some real deep situations where that happened, where you know, I'm like, I can't do this anymore because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. I mean,
that?
that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't get myself involved in it anymore, because I don't want that to happen to me. And so whether or not the woman is, I've had women come up to me and say, well, we just live together, we don't sleep around. That's like the biggest like red flag to me in life. You're staying in the same house, but y'all don't sleep together. Is that what you're trying to convey to me
Yeah.
right now? Or we're in a sexless marriage, and all I need is this, and those are like red flags to me. It's like, have you talked about it with your spouse? Because I'm not going to be the one that this person. I'll even go even one further. I had a opportunity, I think, a couple years ago. This lady told me, I've known her for years, told me that she's polyamorous. So her husband doesn't do it for her anymore. And that they decided that they wanted to have um, you know, other relationships outside the marriage. Now I know, at being a man, how fragile our ego can be. Our egos are very fragile. So I'm sitting there thinking, so if I'm hitting you and I'm hitting you right, and you running out the house every opportunity you get to come see me, that it's not going to affect this man. That's the way I'm thinking. Like it's not going to affect him that I was able to do something that he wouldn't be able to do. And it's like I don't want to be part of that mess. So here's what I did years ago. I'm like, if I have friends, if they got a divorce, I'm still not messing with her. If they're broken up, I'm still not messing with her. Especially if I know the person, I'm not messing with them. Even if I don't know them, and there are many occasions where I justified it and said, well, I don't know him, so I don't care what he thinks. As long as I'm getting mine, I don't care. And that's the attitude I had. Maybe that was the attitude that Steve had. Like, she's giving it to me, so how can I refuse it? And as my dad would always say, don't let the little head think for the big head. You gotta think and make that big head think and get yourself out of those situations. It's just uncomfortable, man, to even talk about this, to think about this. And I'll say this: the major factor why I don't do this kind of stuff, or I curbed myself from doing it years ago, is because I don't want that feeling of somebody stepping out on me. I really don't. That is not a good feeling where you think you have somebody exclusively and they're giving what you feel that's yours away to somebody. So I told my son this real quick. Told my son this about last year sometime, a couple years ago. He was talking about some girl, or whatever, and I said, "Son, it's never yours. It's just your turn." And he was like, "What?"
Um,
I said, "It's never yours.
uh,
It's just your turn." Because she, at any point, could say, "You know what? I'm not getting what I need," and she can go slipping out. And you're giving everything you want. I said, "It's not it's not yours. It's never yours. It's just your turn. So take your turn, go as far as with it you can, and then when it's not your turn anymore, move on."
yeah, I I wouldn't, my spill on that. I wouldn't say um, it's just your turn, but I always say it's not yours. It's never yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's never yours. And when you start to believe it, don't get me wrong, marriage and all that can make you believe it's yours, but we all can do anything any given time we choose to, based on what we want to. So to me, marriage does not make it your possession. It just doesn't. And that's not saying that someone should basically sleep with someone else, the case may be, but at no point in time am I to believe what you do with your body is mine and you're doing something different without me. It's just your personal choice. So it's never yours, and I sign off on that. But as I was saying earlier about how they put you, things like that where they come in attraction. And I understand the uncomfortability that you have speaking about it, man. And that's what we do here. We find things that are uncomfortable and basically pull the skin back on it. And one time or another, we might have found ourselves in that situation. And I could think of a situation that I experienced years ago. This is kind of really when I kind of turned the tide because, and maybe this is in the back of my mind when I'm thinking of this particular situation about you don't know how the person, I'm speaking of this particular husband, or if it was flipped, the woman who writes the script, how they're going to respond to it. Because I was with this woman for a little period of time and she was married. So one day, out of no how it happened, she invited me to their home and we end up in their bed. And when the process of that happening, I'm saying to myself, if he was to come
Mm.
upstairs right now,
Yeah.
realistically, what can I mean, I would have to defend myself out of defense, but would I feel even good about defending myself? It's like here I am basically, what defense do I have? And I remember leaving and kind of stopping and leaving and thinking, I was like, nah, I'm dead wrong. From the top to bottom, all the way around. Never met him, no, know nothing about him. And I'm like, mm-mm. She had no thought process of that, but I'm like, I'm putting myself in a situation where can I legitimately be mad about his response and deal with his response with the same type of anger he might bring to me because I'm dead wrong. I put myself there. And that always kind of stuck with me for the most part because, we don't think, we can do the justification, blah, blah, blah. Man, yeah, I get all that and that stuff is cool. But at the end of the day, realistically, their response, we don't know what it might be. And who could turn that up or turn that down? And I'm sorry, man. Like in this situation, saying to a man that knows that you've been with his wife, I'm sorry, that don't even. I'm sorry. That doesn't even really cut it, boss. It doesn't cut it because, as you said, Mr. Maurice, we have fragile egos. We do. And I don't know if the couple of the man and woman, are going to stay together, but you know, as much as I probably know, most men know from this point forward, he's always going to vision Steve having sex with his wife.
Hmm.
They can be at the supermarket. He's going to think about, what did he do with my wife? They could be going through the car wash, nothing to do with sex. His mind is over. He's going to be having sex with her. He's going to be thinking about that. So you say sorry to that? I mean, in reality, that's the reality. That's what it is right there for most men. And most men can't even handle that to the point where they may turn physical. Because who wants to basically care about someone and realize you have basically done this to the woman that I've set aside to be with me? So want to get your response there, Mr. Charles, because that's kind of, we're going with the fragile ego at this point. As men, women basically, when they come from affairs, they cry, they talk to their girlfriends, they do that, and they kind of patch it up. We're not that good at that. We're just not that good at that, man. We're not. So here again, when I see this cat basically coming after Steve, and I said to you earlier, Mr. Maurice, I think he wants to demolish Steve. He wants to shame him. He wants his family to feel some pain. He wants his wife basically to probably leave him, divorce him, and for the same thing that he's going to be thinking with his wife, if she stays with him, he wants his wife to be thinking that, his wife to be thinking something similar. And at the same point, he wants to basically have him lose his employment. So, but the question I would bring to you, Mr. Charles, because we have that fragile ego in a sense. And maybe in thinking terms like that, or we could be a little more sympathetic to homeboy.
Hell no. Are you nuts? And I say that about the situation, not to you. So not directed to you, but to the
Now
situation.
you mean it to me. You mean it to me. The nuts part. But go ahead.
No,
I'm
you
just
just
teasing
happened to
you.
be the moderator. I'm whoever. It could have been anybody that said that. I said, hell no. So it don't matter who the moderator is. It's just a question. So I mean, you gotta think about it. We talking about we as men have egos. Uh, we definitely have strong feelings. I don't think sometimes women understand that men our egos and our feelings mean so much about certain things, right? Certain things we may not even give a damn about. Oh, you did this, you did that, you took my car, you did this, whatever. Something that really does not matter. You go, oh, I don't care. When it comes to matters of the heart, sometimes and feelings, and something you deeply care about and love, man, that goes a long way. And even the toughest guys go, man, that was messed up, and I'm pissed. So we also got to take into consideration that the time and the investment, bruh. Let's say you was married 20 years, 15 years, whatever it may be, 10 years, whatever, 5 years. The investment and the trust is lost, right? When another man banging your wife, keeping it 100 with y'all, or sleeping with her, to be politically correct, I don't want to offend anyone, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Somebody having relations with your wife, right? She having relations with your wife, you lose trust. You feel some kind of way. So, of course, the guy is going to go, yeah, I want him to hurt like I hurt. Why should you get to walk away unscathed? So my wife come back home, everything is good. I take her back because I love her, and I don't care what she did. And I'm like, all right, well, you just get to go back to your other woman, right? Or women, like nothing happened. So I guess that's a problem. So the man wants to destroy you. I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with it, but I feel the pain. Because the thing is too, my question is, as I think about that too, as a man, as the husband, do you ever really think you can reconnect with your wife the way y'all had it? And are you now staying just because y'all got kids? What if the kids are young? You got to go through all that. You stay because you don't want to mess it up for the kids, or if the kids is older, you be like, man, hell with that, I'm out. Because that trust is gone. Those feelings. It's like somebody just stepped on your heart, man. Because you might be believing the whole time that we was good. I thought we was going, it was a little rocky, but we was going to smooth it out. And then that damn DeMaurice did it again. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I know you're going to say,
Yeah, he over there feeling uncomfortable. He's over there walking
yeah,
on
that's what,
eggshells.
that's what I said. I said, finally got one on you now. He's like, man, I don't even want to feel like comfortable talking about. It's funny, but it's not funny because you never hear him shook up like this. It's kind of like watching The Wire when Omar was with that little boy Mike, and he said, "You hear me, Sweet Pea?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah," just shook, just shook. Anyway, but nah, it's all good.
It's interesting, man, because while you was talking, I thought of this. I remember reading about this, and this couple. I'm gonna not say their name, but this happened, and I talked about this years ago on the show. But what happened was, she came home and caught him having sex with another woman on the kitchen floor. So years later, I mean, shortly after, I believe they separated. But years later, the woman never really talked about it, never said much. And basically, one day, let's say about 15, 20 years later, brought it out. And when she talked about it, they went back and talked to him. And when they approached him about it, he broke down and started crying. And he said, you know, all that time, yes, it happened. He said all the time in between had kids, she never allowed that to interfere with how they were raising the kids. She never showed any malice towards him, anything of that nature. Yeah, he was regretful what took place, but nothing. No, she displayed no emotions towards him, none at all. And that's rough. That's rough because the average person, was going to feel something, and you don't know what they're going to feel emotionally, how it's going to come out. But was beyond, you could say the word mature or anything of that nature, to where she didn't let what she felt interfere with the family process and the way she basically dealt with him until that particular time. And I go back to what I said a little while ago. For him to break down before we even start talking, to break down in tears. Now, granted, he was having sex. He was having sex with another woman that wasn't his wife in the home on the floor, and we kind of assume we could be macho if we want to because if we're performing that act, but we assume that even though he was having the fear, he has no emotional ties after it's all said and done. It's not no regret. There is no, there's not feeling, how I, like you said earlier, DeMaurice, who got hurt, who was hurt. And realistically, there's a sign that even the person that's doing the cheating, consciously must carry that we don't talk about. Because, we justify, like, it was said, I don't care about so and so. But at some point, man, we all live with a conscience. And you can travel the world, you can go to the moon, wherever you go, you bring that conscience with you. It just doesn't get up and walk away. It kind of is, it's there. And it at some point when you least expect it, it will kick your ass. It just will. It's the makeup of who we are as human beings. And so sometimes, even like I said earlier, when he was saying I'm sorry, who knows what's going to happen to Steve Smith with his family, with his employment, his reputation. But that's going to be a hefty price to pay for a few minutes of sexual satisfaction. That's a hefty price. And a lot of times when we're put in that situation where we can be involved with someone, we ain't thinking about the price to pay, especially as men. We ain't thinking about the price to pay. We're thinking about that 8 second of pleasure we're trying to get to. And we talked about that a long time ago. Our orgasm is 8 seconds long. And as men, the stuff that we will do, the situation we'll put ourselves in or have put ourselves in just for motherfucking 8 seconds. I'm going to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's how much you need to stay on the bull and bull riding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it, DeMaurice. Countries have went to war over 8 seconds. They
Yep.
have had fights with swords. Men have basically spent millions for 8 seconds. 8 seconds. When you think about it, I'm gonna pull. That's our hit for that this evening. Unless you guys want to ask something else, I'm gonna kind of move to something different. I wanted to get questions from you two gentlemen and kind of see if there's been some things kind of percolating in our mind. Mr. Charles, I'll come to you first, man. Something that you want us to kind of basically give our thoughts to. Let's hear it, brother.
Yeah, I want to. I guess I already started something with the first one, so I got to be careful with the second one. No, just in general, I've been observing some stuff with the new administration, of course, of this country. What do you guys think about the all of the whole thing about the immigration and the deportation and stuff like that? Have you been paying attention to it at all? Where do you what do you think about that?
Not really
What's
paying,
happening?
yeah, not really paying much attention to it. Understand that's going on. Um, you know, I'll say this: these two words to me, I find to be interesting. If it's legal, if it's illegal. If something is illegal, you got to get rid of it. And I'm not trying to mince words here. And I don't care who's doing it. It's just what it is. But I will say this though. I'm gonna come back to this. I'm gonna put this out here now, and I'm gonna roll it to DeMaurice. I think the DEI stuff that's going on is a blessing in disguise. And I'll explain more what I mean that when I say that. I think that's a blessing in disguise. But your response to the immigration stuff, Mr. Maurice.
One of the things that I've been talking to people about here is that there are people who love to get me involved in protests and stuff like that because I know how to strategize and all the other stuff. But I told them that as far as I'm concerned, after this election, a lot of different nationalities kind of showed us their ass. Because when you have over 90% of black women or almost 90% of black men vote for their interests in human rights and for everybody else's interests, and everybody kind of goes their own way and voting against their interests, then what do you want me to do? What you want me to go up and carry signs and protest because you fucked up and chose the wrong person? So I, along with a lot of other black folks that I've been talking to, you see it on social media, we are going to sit this one out for 4 years because I'm so tired of our people and our ancestors trying to save white folks, trying to save democracy, trying to civilize white folks, that we tired. So you created this mess. You figure out how to get out of this mess. I'm just going to sit back quietly, eat my popcorn, and just watch the shit show for the next 4 years because this is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. Black folks have been struggling ever since we've been in this country. So it ain't new to us. And all the stuff that we fought for, our ancestors fought for, you guys in one vote um, have put a person in office to destroy that. So I'm not really watching the news and keeping up on what's happening and all that other stuff. I feel for folks who this has impacted their families, things of that sort. But you should have had these conversations with these folks and let them know that this was the possibility of this happening if you made the wrong choice. You made the wrong choice. Now you have to live with it. It's like a parent who tells you, if you keep doing that, this is what's going to happen. So now you want black folks as the parent in this, and the people who have done all the stuff and laid out all the work and laid out a lot of stuff that you took advantage of. You didn't work for it, but you took advantage of it. You came into this country. You took advantage of all the struggles and fights and battles that we had to go through to get just the rights that we have now, and you pissed it away. You just pissed it away. So if it's not concerning black folks, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not raising a finger on trying to civilize other folks' problems. That's your problem now. You wanted it, you got it. So I might be sounding harsh, or might be sounding like ignoring people's plight. I'm not. You chose this, so you deal with it. And like parents, it's like sometimes you gotta let your kids sit in the shit to get the message across. And maybe you'll learn from it. I don't know. Maybe you'll learn from it. But nah, I'm not going out doing any of that stuff because um, I was talking to my pop about this, and I'm like, your generation, the generation before that, our great grandparents, all this stuff, fought for all this stuff, and folks pissed it in the air and showed us our ass because they didn't want a black woman in office. That's the simple fact. White supremacy and you not liking black people has cost you a whole lot of freedoms that you might have had if you would have put that woman in office. But you chose this, you deal with it.
You know, it was interesting on the immigration part. I remember when he first ran for president a few years ago, and he said, "I'm going to build a wall and keep a certain part of the population out of this country." Blah blah blah. And I thought it was amazing back then. Some of the people that he wanted to keep out, they're people that was here applauded that, applauded it, thought it was a great idea, voted for him, and didn't realize, you know, that may not be you, but those are your people. They didn't. I just that boggled the mind. So recently, when I'm hearing that people are, being sent out of this country, I saw people in certain areas where they can't get their workers into work. They're scared to come to work. They're losing their businesses. So what? So what? So what? Because nothing that he spoke of prior to being elected, if you heard it or you weren't paying attention, you voted for him. So what? At the end of the day, so what? Because my life is not going to be determined by any idiot that sits in Washington. And I always felt that way. So your response, Mr. Charles.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is going on. I think people, as you said, and they might have voted for, say, a person in the White House, that they are surprised and shocked by what ICE has been doing. ICE slowed down a little bit, but they're starting to pick up now because they're using local law enforcement to do some of the duties now. But what I find ironic is some people thought they really were safe. I mean, you got over here and you've been here 15 years. You never thought to get on paper at all, ever, ever. I know you risk going back or whatever, but you kids born here, so I guess you thought you just had a pass, and you did for a minute. But when old boy came in, he like, man, ain't nobody feeling you. I read some crazy stories where man said he was here 15 years. He and his wife met. Blah blah blah. He had two kids. He had two kids prior. They had two more kids. Now they got like whatever another kids, like five kids. He has his own business. They deported that dude, bruh. He may not be coming back. The wife, everything they have, everything they put together, he was the main breadwinner. Wife don't work, and he had his own business. He had some. He had a auto repair business and some other plumbing business. And she has already had to sell the cars and selling some trucks, and they have nothing. So, I mean, on one hand, I understand where there are families and their plight, but over here, you're supposed to be following. At least let us know you're here. At least let the government know you're here. And I understand. You like DeMarie said, you want to cry me a river, and we're supposed to understand because we know what it's like for struggle. Yeah, you're right. But the one thing we don't always have to be. the people that's playing in the band. Because if the roles will reverse, you damn sure wouldn't be coming our aid. We know that. But because you're down, you want us to understand. And Lord knows I love the Bible. And I know we talk about loving your neighbor and all. I do. And I ask the Lord for forgiveness every day. Something in the back of my mind still go like, would you really come for me? Would you help me? And the answer more likely is going to be no. So I'm going to keep praying because I need to be better. But the other part is like, shit. For real? You like, look, like they remember real quick when they did the whole thing after 9/11, and they were checking certain groups of people because they considered the way what they were wearing might be considered in terrorist clothing, which is clearly wrong, and they were screaming out and whatnot. But I'm like, as much as I would love to help you, I'm like, shit, we've been scrutinized for how long? And at some point I wanted to say, yeah, welcome, join the club. We got to you're a card carrying member now of scrutiny over in the United States of America.
Hmm. I love the conversation, gentlemen, when black men talk. Mark Elliott, Mr. Maurice, and Mr. Charles. I said earlier, before we come to your question, Mr. Maurice, I want to just kind of drop this out, that I think the DUI, you could look at it many different ways, but here's why I think it's a blessing in disguise. Because we are finally starting to crank an eyelid and realize the money we spend in this country with people that don't give a damn about us. Act like they give a damn about you, but don't. And for some reason now we're starting to, understand that money has power. The influence of it, what it can do, what it can show, and what it can do, what it can have happen. I've seen places and different people speak on it where, I'll give an example where a minister was talking about it in his church. You'd have never talked about it before. Never brought that. And that's one of the places that have always been talked about. But they're too busy raising money for the church. But reality is that there's certain days now where there's certain businesses going to be boycotted on certain days. And you can listen to some of these stores that are basically on the hit list already running scared, talking about they're scared. Well, we're going to face some rough times on tariffs. Now you're facing rough times already because your stock prices are going to go down. Your revenue is about to go down, and they see it coming. So for me, that's the blessing in disguise, because it took that for us to wake up and realize half the dumb stuff we've been buying, some of the stores we've been going into, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Should have never been there. Some of the vehicles we've been buying, I mean, a lot of it. So that's my point on that. Mr. Reese, your question, boss.
Yeah, I had this question for a while. I had to write it down before I forgot it. But just think about our exes. And the question I have is, what good thing did we learn from our exes?
It all depends. Well, I can say one of the major good things we learn what we don't want. That's for sure. We learn what we
You
don't
took
want.
mine.
I'm sorry. They teach you, basically what you don't want, and yeah, they teach you that off the bat, off the rip. Wow. I think for me, if I'm honest with myself, is you know it in some particular ones they taught me to reevaluate myself a little differently, handle things a little different. But one thing I think a lot of them are, some of them have basically taught me and have confirmed: trust your instinct, trust your gut. You feel something, you see something. Don't try to color it different than what it is. See it for what it is. So that's something I'll add to the list. Your response, Mr. Charles.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the person or what you're looking at. But I think for me, particularly early, but now I just really it's second nature. But it's about being true to yourself, right? Because sometimes we get caught up if a woman's really this and you think she's this and that you kind of go, oh wow, all right, I want to make sure, and I want to not so much conform, but man, I want to look at this situation differently than I did the other way. but you have to be. It's about be true to yourself, be comfortable being yourself. Because I think sometimes some men, because when you first meet a woman, you understand who she is, even if she has, let's say, since she has a lot of money, you have to remind yourself that you have so much to give and what you bring to the table, especially if you accomplish some things that more than anything, and oftentimes she's lucky to be with you. And what I mean by that, not so much how much money you have, but what you bring to the table as far as the way you handle things, the way you accomplish things in life, when you go about things, your compassion, a lot of things, your total package is spot on, a lot better than a lot of jokers out here that may have more money than you and don't really give a damn about them. So my point of it is, remember what you have, what you bring to the table. I remember to myself about the total package, because when after a while, once the smoke clears, a lot of those women are gonna be glad they still have you, or gonna want you back.
Do, do, do. Want you back? Your response, Mr. DeMaurice? I'm sorry if I took your first order, man, but that was right there, man. I couldn't help but grab it and take it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't trust the big button to smile. What's that? The boys, not boys to men, but what's that group?
BBD?
BBD.
Or, yeah. Oh, man.
But yeah, it's like, when you're growing up, you think about the physical characteristics of what you want, but you don't think about the person that you need in these relationships to bring out the best in you. And I think my ex really, and a lot of my exes really kind of showed me through that process. It's almost like a process of going through the fire of what you want and what you need, and you want to fall on what you need more so, because the wants kind of fade in and out, but what you need to know your worth and to know who you are and to be who you are, and that person not trying to change you and what they want you to be is so important. So I think that was a good thing that I learned out of the relationships I had with my exes, that you find out what you don't want, you find out what you really want, you find out what you don't need, and you find out what you do need. And as you get older in this journey, you realize that the needs outweigh the wants sometimes.
Yeah. Let me ask this to us in general, because I think we're to a point in life now where we've basically been through some things, we see some things, and we know what we're up against. Are we with everything that's out there, what you really see and what's presented for the most part, are we fully open, Mr. Charles, for love in our life?
Can be. It's a work in progress. You gotta work your way up to it. Shit.
Come on,
You
man.
know what
Come
I'm saying?
on.
Shit. I mean, you gotta work your way up to it. Shit. Nah. You just gonna think gonna be, oh yeah, well, I'm open to be vulnerable again. Hell no, you cautious. You just
No.
are. You cautious. Am I
Okay.
getting this wrong? I mean, I'm just saying, you cautious because when you say are you open to it, yeah, I'm open. I'm cautiously open. How about that?
Okay. And I hear that. Don't get me wrong, but my thing is, and I'm going to come back to you with this, because in reality, is it to the point where does love even matter at this point? Because I understand the vulnerability stuff, but we want to feel this. We're with someone. Of course, we want to feel a certain way, but at this point, is it more love or is it companionship?
Hmm.
That's for you, Mr. Charles.
I appreciate it. I truthfully, for me, I would say I think it's love. Man, I want love. I do. I mean, companionship is, you would hope it'd be companionship with love, but companionship to me is just, that's what it is, right? You like her, she like you, y'all kick it, you do whatever. You don't want to be by yourself, but you don't need to have love to have companionship, do you?
No. Mm-mm.
Even if you're committed, you don't have to love the person. You just like kicking it with them. You enjoy spending time. The holidays, as we're older, you can have a companion. But I mean, I would hope. I mean, for me, I want love. I do. But the question is, and this is where it's gonna get real tricky. So I'm about to run out the door as soon as I say it. Can you have love and in that companionship without marriage?
Mm.
Yeah, okay. What you say,
And I
D?
think
What
you
you say,
can.
D? D,
I
D, D
said,
Maurice. D,
yeah,
D.
yeah. I said, yeah.
I think you can. I think you can. I really do. I think it's based on the person. Because some people at this state at their lives don't necessarily, just like, they don't want marriage. They may not. Some people do, granted. And, they'll bring the religious aspect to it of wanting marriage. But in reality, and I'm not knocking the religious aspect of it, but a lot of it is because they want that security. And they want that security. If you're not there, I spent time with you. That time should represent something. So when I say to you, DeMaurice, that are we open to love? And it's a two-part question. Are we open to love? And if it's a choice, which one would you or we really prefer? Because I hear the love stuff, but to me, when you're saying, you got to be vulnerable, blah, 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 then it's like, to me, you want a companion. Because if you're going to be in love, all that vulnerability is going to come with this. So your response, DeMaurice.
I don't know, man. I kind of think when I'm sitting here listening to you speak, I'm like thinking that love is kind of like a young man, young woman's game at that
Look
particular
out,
point.
man. Look out now. Look out there. Look out there.
And I don't know if I'm ever gonna feel that way again. I really don't.
Woo!
I really don't. So companionship, can you take me smelling like icy hot when I go to bed and all that other stuff? Can you put up with some of the stuff? That's what I need right now. Can I put up with you putting your teeth in the jar?
Oh, no.
Can I
Wow.
put up with you wearing your bonnet every night and then going to sleep?
He's hitting it now.
Shit.
He's hitting it.
Damn.
I don't know if I can feel that love like when you're younger, like you going all. I don't know if I can do that anymore, man. I don't know if I got the energy to do that anymore. So for me, it's more companionship. We get our rocks off every now and then, but all this, we dancing around the world, frolicking through the park and all that. I don't know. Maybe it will happen. Maybe I'll get a surprise. I don't know. But I don't know. I think it's a young man, young woman's game at this particular point. Just that love stuff and listening to the radio, and you still up on the phone and all that stuff. I ain't got the energy for that, bruh. I really don't.
Yeah, that's why I think the question is real interesting because I think sometimes we say one thing and we show something totally different. And as I said earlier, I think we speak of love. I think we do. But at the same time, we're not open to it as we probably should be. And it's because what we may have experienced, some things we step back and see, how we want things to be before we release our love to someone. But in the meantime, you want to be with someone. You
Yeah.
want that company, which is companionship.
You don't want
And
to be alone at this particular stage in
you
your
want
life, too.
you want companionship just because what it offers you. But I hear you, Demarese, when you say about the love part. It's like, and I don't, will love what will love feel like at this stage of life? I
Hmm.
mean, that's a question because you say about the youngness because love had a sparkle back then, man. I'm not saying they can't have it now, but see, back then we didn't question love.
No.
When you felt that you just was like you was wide open to it, and it's like okay, all loosey goosey. Now you got the magnifying glass out. You're looking for this. You checking that. You're looking at everything. So it's like, are you really welcome it? And that's what that's what I'm kind of getting to is because I'm not sure. Are we really open? We may want it, but are we open to it? Because there's a difference there. I really wanting it. And I'll say this, Mr. Charles, and I we look at things differently. But I think too, man, for gentlemen, and I don't know if this plays a part with you or not, but I think Mr. DeMaurice, we two say this, we've been married before. So what we speak of is some of that comes from that. Being married, you being in love, and like, okay, all right, you get out of it, you're like, well, all right, I'm gonna do that again. Maybe I'll do it again. Julius, I might feel the same thing. And it's not a good feeling. And and I say that to say, when I hear you, I like what you're saying, but I think a lot of times, man, based on some things that happened previously, you're sitting back like, if I fall in love again, all right. If I don't, all right. You kind of take it as it come. If you got a response to it, Mr. Charles, I'll slide out the way, boss.
Oh, no doubt about it. I got a response. I appreciate you letting me say it. I find it ironic though that when you mentioned that, that was kind of cool. I listened. I was like, okay. And notice I did preface that by saying, asking, can you be in? Can you have a situation where you are have companionship and still have love? And I said, can you do that without marriage? So yeah, I get it. I mean, I understand you guys have been married. And you may, being that vulnerable, that might come with the marriage part, and I get that. But that's why I asked that question because I'm not necessarily present at this point in my life for the marriage because it would take somebody very special, and we have to really have an understanding, or because stuff changes. I really have to be thinking, yeah, she gets me, I get her. It feels good. It feels right. And even when she says, yeah, I still might go, well, we still gonna keep this companionship rolling, right? I love you, you love me. Why we gotta get married? I'll put
Oh.
I'll put you down as my beneficiary. Anything pop off, you good, right? But why we gotta mess it up? Because sometimes I think you get all caught up in it, and then people see it differently. I think sometimes too, and maybe it's just me that people stop trying sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah.
When they say you married, you with me, they stop trying. I can do it here. I ain't gotta try no more. I don't want to try. And I'm like, well, then what happened? Well, I'm your wife now. You just whatever. Nah. But let's keep rolling. So that's a fine line. So D. Maurice changed my mind when he started saying that. I was like, well, damn. He got me thinking differently. So I'm really going to come back to, can we have love in the companionship, right? Without being married. Can we have an understanding and we together? Yeah, I don't want nobody else. You my beneficiary. Something happened to me. Ain't nobody else gonna say nothing. I'll sign on the dotted line. But it seems like we are better. We are better acquainted. We get along better when we not uh signed on the dotted line to be married. For a
Hey,
lot of people, it's like that.
hey,
So,
know what you gonna hear? Well, we acting like we married.
well, damn. We are. So guess
You
what? We
you
acting.
might
Let me
as
say.
well be
Let me say one thing. You absolutely right. We acting like it. That's why you my damn beneficiary.
married.
But I want to address something you said, Mr. Charles, because it's prominent and it's true, man. Because, and this is the reason why I feel that happens. You say because they get married and they kind of stop trying. See, the trying was to get you to that point.
Mm,
That's what that was. The trying was to get you to get married. So once they get there, they feel like they don't reach the finish line. All that trying and all that was to get you there. And I'm not saying that's always the case, but that's a lot of it. For those that experience that and they get married and it's like, wait a minute, you're not the same person because they ain't got to. What they got to try for anymore? They realize now that you're under the legal contract, so to speak, to where if they don't do much, what are you going to do? Well, really, what are you going to do?
yeah.
So that happens, man. And as sad as that and dumb as that may sound, that's the reality of that. And to me, realistically, it once you get there, you should be trying and doing working even harder because you reach that goal. You reach there, so now the work really starts to kick in. But you hear a lot of people say, well, when we we're dating, this was this, and then here come the excuses. Well, this changed, that changed. Well, if you love the person, none of that should have changed. You still make the effort, the time to do what's necessary, but that's a big part of it because all that was done to get you there. It was just done to get you
Yeah.
there, boss.
You just messed my whole. I guess I'm gonna stick with my original plan. Just when I was ready to kind of transform and turn a new leaf, y'all got me all messed up. Now look, I'm gonna have to stick with my original damn plan. Keep doing what I'm doing, and it's gonna be what it is. But all of the extra stuff, oh well, I guess that ain't happening. So I want you to keep trying. So I guess we just gonna keep trying, and we're gonna never get to that point. Again, you can be my beneficiary, and we can be committed. But if we already know what it is. That just had to be good enough. I think it's gonna work out for us though.
Good luck with that.
Hey, hey, D. Marie, guess what? So far, so good. I know. Let me say, I know what this is on this side. The other shit on the other end, like somebody tell you real quick. You with somebody and you care about them, whatever. Y'all doing some things and y'all really into each other, and you think about marrying this person, and this person says, "Well, you know you can't tame me, right?" They tell you that. Why the hell would I marry you? If you ain't gonna do what's right before I marry you, all of a sudden you gonna transform. You gonna get the power of God that come to you, make you start treating me right? You're crazy than a motherfucker, man. You nuts. Where they do that at? Not in my neighborhood. All of a sudden you gonna turn into this righteous person. Get the fuck out of here, man. Are you serious? How big a fool you think I am? I'm crazy, but one thing I'm not. I ain't stupid.
Once again, bringing laughter and joy to all. Yeah, these conversations.
Love and companionship. I'm gonna leave it there, man. I'm gonna leave it there. Oh, I love it. I love it, man. I swear, I love it. I love it. Gentlemen, we get together about 6-7 days, we'll do it again. This is what Black Men Talk. It's the conversation with Mr. DeMaurice, Mr. Charles, myself, and Mark Elliott. And again, thank you for giving us a listen to whatever platform you're listening to us on. We appreciate it. And for those that start listening to us on I'm sorry. I can't even say it now. I'm laughing so much. But yeah, order. I think it's order. I'll get it right the next time. I'm sorry. God bless you. We love you too. We'll get together real soon.